Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology. Uh, Going to be doing another tutorial this morning for Jewelry Design 1, working on jewelry indication techniques in preparation for jewelry rendering. This is a value study that we'll be doing today. As in previous situations, this will be done digitally using Fractal Painter. The same methods can be done, and you will be doing, using traditional media. The thing you want to ask yourself as you work on this is how this is reacting to the light. The light, in every instance, is going to be coming from over here. So the light's going to consistently be coming from this direction, which means shadow will be consistently on this side. You want to be able to use your pencil to sculpt the form, using as few values as possible, just to get an understanding. So we'll be using the same method we've used before on our other exercise, of basically using 2 or 3 values. The light's hitting this side, that's in shadow. This is above, that's below. I'm going to keep that shading all the way here and back as it passes under. I know I'm going to have a rounding of the form here, like a cylinder, as it fades off the back. What I want you to resist is the notion that there is one right way and one wrong way to do this. This could be done any number of ways. It's your job to come up with the most effective one to display the form. I see this as being largely a flat surface, so those diagonals would be good, but it's also a curving surface, so I'm going to do kind of a curved area coming up and in. Keep a little bit of a barrier here. And I would call that finished. Coming down to a more organic form in this flower. I have lots of little flutes going on, so I have a lot of detail here. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to establish the basic form. And the basic form, like most flowers, tends to be somewhat of a cone. Light's coming from here. So as this tucks under, I'm going to pick up a shadow. In somewhat of a cylindrical form here, as this tucks away, or curls away, I'm going to create a shadow. This could be a piercing in here, or it could be solid. The designer hasn't specified. I will treat it as solid. This is a shadow area. I'll let it go a little darker with my pencil there. Coming around here. These stamens are going to throw this whole area into shadow. And I picture this side falling away from the light as well. I think this goes into shadow. And then, once again, being a cone, I think it goes into shadow here with the light being there, and shadow here with the light being up on here. And I'll actually let this fall into shadow as well. Okay? After I've done that much, I'll come back and I'll treat each of these surfaces or areas independently. I see this as being a column or a cylinder. Same here. I think this is rounded, so I will let it stay away from the edge a little bit, giving me a little reflected light back here, which makes it feel round. I think that this banks up and blocks the light a little bit. I think the shadow gets a little deeper in here. I think probably one of my darkest areas is going to be right here. And again here. We call this a core shadow, your darkest shadow. So I'll let a little core shadow come into here. Not so sure here. Maybe a little shading, and maybe a little more shading here. And that's really enough to capture the form of this. I'll let a little shade in here. I will round these under a little, let them curl away by giving them a slight shadow. But there's that. Okay. Here's this large, more of a sketchy form, but still very useful for working with form. I see this, once again, the light is coming from here. I see the highlight being here. So anything that's not right there is going to have a shading to it. This is a pearl. Pearls have a shaded area here, and then another soft shaded area here. This is a cone, cylindrical sort of form, so dark on that side. Now I'm going to bring my pencil to a better point. Clean this up a little bit better. Little cast shadow here. Now this area wouldn't necessarily have a lot of shading, but it's too boring as a big white strip. So I'll put a little shading there, a little shading there, a little shading on this individual little flute or column, cylinder, and here. Okay? And that's really that. These hearts are deceiving. I'm going to, because there's a hard corner here, which means each one of these is a rounded surface. Each one of these is part of a cylinder. That's complicated. I can do it, but I'm not going to spend time with it right now in terms of our tutorial. Let's see, what else do I want to work with together with you? This is a flat surface, as you can clearly see from the side view, with low relief sculpting on it. So I'm going to go ahead and come in and treat the flatness of it. It's important that those lines stay parallel. Okay. That's pretty good. I'm going to treat the roundness of this bishop's hook that comes around. There would be a roundness here as it goes under. Okay. And also a roundness on this part here, and a little bit of a roundness at the top. Okay. I'm going to come in with my eraser shield, and I'm going to clean off the shading from some of the details. And now I'm going to do my low relief shading. I need a nice sharp pencil for this. Once again, as I said with pipes or wires, it's often just a swirling sort of line that travels the length of them. You kind of find it and lose it. Cast shadow on this side of that ring. I see this as being a recessed area with a little sculptural motif in the center of it. So I'll go ahead and recess those up in their upper left corner where they would be left somewhat in shadow. as the light hit near them. Okay. And that's really enough for that. Here, we have a soft scroll motif. So a little shadow under these two domes, really. Pick up a little shading here and here as well, so they feel like rounded surfaces. This is a cylinder curving away. There's a cast shadow here. A bit of a shading there. This is cylindrical, as is this. This is a cylinder going the other direction, this bale. And it rounds off toward the back as well, so I will put a little shading there. I have a pearl here again, so I will put shading in this area. And I will put shading down in here as well. Okay. The last one I'm going to work with is this big one right here. Light is coming into here, shading is over here, so I'll start with doing what I know. I know that's in shadow. This comes into the light, but as it curves away, it's part of a cylinder into the shadow. This is actually curving back a little bit forward, so I'll let a little shading come here. This will be nice and light, except for where it starts to fold over. I need to indicate that. That's really all there is to shading that. Now what I want to show you is when you can use your white on your paintbrush, where it would be appropriate. Wherever you have pave, like this, I'm going to come in and just shade it primarily in the upper left corner of the stone, but if it seeps, that's fine. Same here. Okay, same over here. Same on here. Now I'm going to use my Pro White on my paintbrush. And unfortunately, okay, fine. I'm going to change the quality of my brush so that it's more like a my pencil so that it's more like a paintbrush. Come in here, transition into that light. Heavier, thicker, crisscrossing sorts of strokes. And if your lines for the stones tend to get obliterated by this process, that's actually okay. A diamond has that effect. You don't see a clear circle around a stone, generally speaking. Areas that have a softer curvature like this, just like when you are rendering metal, are going to have larger areas of these medium or kind of moderately faceted stones that will then slowly transition. Areas that have small areas of stone that drastically change aren't going to have much of a transition. Now the last thing you would do is, if you need them, add beads. If there are areas where the stone goes into where the piece goes into shadow and there are dark corners between the stones, come in and add a few beads. It's important in shadowed areas that those beads be small, otherwise they'll break up the form. Okay? And that's a very quick way to indicate your pave or bead set stonework. Okay? Now pearls. You'll use your Pro White and come in and add a nice crisp highlight right on top of that dark area. And it's nice to also add a smaller one. And sometimes you'll even add a small one back over in here so that the pearl feels like it has a lot of sparkle to it. Okay? The last place where you would use your Pro White is if there are areas in your rendering that became confused. And you could use some crisp highlights to distinguish one surface area from another. I need to take that brush size down, I'm sorry. Using a bit of a baseball bat to do delicate work with. But you can come in here and you can lift out some of the details that may have gotten lost. Particularly in a situation like this where you have two different things going on and you want to keep it clear. Oh, a little too far. Okay, that'll help you. And the same thing is, and then at the end, if you need to, you can. Oh, except for I need to go back to a proper pencil for that. You can come back in with your pencil. But okay, so that gives you an idea of how you can effectively shade using a pencil. We'll use these exact same values if you were painting in color. Okay, that's it. I want you to complete the sheet to the best of your ability, and I will see you in class. Thanks for watching.